name is Modou Cheyassin Phall. I'm the Executive Director of the National Nutrition Agency. It was around 1986-87 that Aissatou Jallow came to head the agency, and she was there with us until 2005. But some very interesting things happened with regard to the positioning of the agency, because it was a unit by then. But while she was there, definitely she was telling us that she wanted to move nutrition from the periphery to the center stage. And actually that became a reality around 1998, 1999, that nutrition is a cross-cutting issue. It's not only about health, it's about agriculture, it's about water, sanitation, it's about any other thing that that will have an impact on human life. And it was then that we said that, okay, we're going to change from a unit to a national nutrition agency, and then place it outside the Ministry of Health. It was a little, people were not comfortable about that arrangement by then, because they are used to seeing nutrition units being nestled in Ministry of Health. Yes, we got the policy. The policy is not, doesn't have that power to give us the legal status. So around 2005 came this idea of the Gambia having its first Food Act, and by then food safety was delegated to the National Nutrition Agency. So we capitalized on the fact that we're going to have a Food Act in 2005, and there we also put an article or a chapter that would establish the National Nutrition Agency to give it a legal status with a mandate and placing it under the office of the Vice President. The mandate is to coordinate all nutrition and nutrition-related activities, because nutrition is a cross-cutting issue. And what really would make an impact is to make sure that all those people whose work has an impact or nutrition impacts on their work, how do we coordinate their activities to make sure that we have one common objective and then work towards that common objective. This is why we work very closely with the Ministry of Health, because you cannot divorce nutrition totally from the Ministry of Health, because when you come to the management of severe acute malnutrition or moderate malnutrition, that falls under them. Giving of vitamin A and deworming falls under them. But we also work with the Ministry of Agriculture in terms of food and nutrition security. We also work with the water and sanitation departments, because even if all these things are present in the household and you don't have good water and sanitation, it derails the efforts that you want to do in order to improve upon the nutritional status of the people that you are talking about. We also work with the Department of Women, because it's all about how do we empower women, how do we make sure that at the end of the day, women are given the right positions, women can make the decision as to when they want to get pregnant, whether they want to breastfeed, and for how long they want to breastfeed. What coordinating to means that there are certain things that the agency have to take lead. For example, when it comes to social and behavior change communication related to nutrition, we take the lead. When it comes to nutrition policy, drafting of the policy, we also take the lead. When we talk about nutrition in emergency, we also take the lead. So basically, to cut it short, I think we are responsible for the policy of the nutrition policy in the country, but we are also responsible for coordinating all efforts that are geared toward nutrition in the country. Basically, when you look at the NDP, which is the National Development Plan, is just a compendium of policies from various ministries and sectors like health, agriculture, education, women, and all those things. That is, they make a compendium of it and then make some strategies, look at some activities, and then make some targets, as this is what the government wish to see as a blueprint for the development of the country over this number of years. The National Nutrition Agency was part of it. At first, when they beginning to develop this, the poverty reduction strategies, that's where the whole thing started. I know the Gambia used to have their 5-year development plan, their 10 development plan, but the PRSP, the poverty reduction strategy, was what came around in the 80s and 90s. That was under Sparko Biden. And that was the first time, and I think there was even a World Bank publication to see that in a document talking about poverty reduction, Gambia was able to put the issue of nutrition in those documents. I remember we were sent those publications, and Gambia was being touted of this. We have lots of challenges definitely in terms of food. Food security is a major problem in this country. If you look at the poverty level in this country, it's very high. You are talking about 48 to 50% of people who lives in who live below $1 a day, and then their purchasing power is not there, especially when you live around the urban area. Because when we talk about food security, we look at two dimensions. The first dimension is your own production, what you produce yourself, from your garden, from your farm, from your gardens and all those things. And then if you are somebody working from what you earn. But when you look at the prices of food, and what people earn, sometimes for you to make a meaningful, to buy as much as possible, is not there. And that's one of it. Food insecurity is one problem, especially in the rural areas. By this time, if you go to any of these rural areas, what they produced last year has run out of stock. So, and yet the crops are not yet mature. The only crop that matures is maize, and perhaps they will roast the maize and, not make flour out of it to cook something else. That's one problem that is holding the Gambian, as far as food security is concerned. Low productivity, low income, purchasing powers are very low, and that has an impact on food diversity, because nutrition is all about diversity. It's not based on one single food. For you to get the protein, the carbohydrate, the fats, the minerals and the vitamins, this is where the diversity of the diet comes in. And it's not only based on eating one type of food every time. You have to diversify your sources of food, because there is no one single food that contains all the nutrients that the body needs. Some may contain macronutrients, that are protein, fats, and carbohydrates, but they may be lacking in other nutrients like the micronutrients and the micronutrients which the body needs in small amounts. So that's why diversifying the diet. The people who have a more diversified diet, they are the people whose nutritional status are up there. So when it comes for asking whether the Gambians are actually nutrition-wise, how I will gauge the Gambia, I say yes, they are trying. Because when you go to most households, you will see that on a particular Monday, they may cook this, Tuesday they cook something different, the next day they cook something different. But in terms of the adequacy, in terms of nutrition, nutrients, sometimes that is where it is lacking. And another point that we don't take into consideration is the manner of preparation of these foods, the way that we prepare these foods. Sometimes either during the process of preparing the foods, like for example, the fruits and especially the vegetables, you use a blunt knife to cut your green leafy vegetables. In the process, you make them lose some of the enzymes or some of the nutrients. Sometimes you soak them. If they are vitamin soluble, they disappear with the water, and then you soak and wash and throw the water. If the vitamin soluble ones, will definitely you lose a lot of nutrients. And then on top of that, sometimes you peel some of these things like the potato and leave them open in the air for another 10 minutes before you put them into the pot. And then by the time you come, you see oxidation taking place. Most of the ions start reacting and then changing color and then making bioavailability a problem. And then the other thing is about the issue of overcooking, especially with our vegetables. We just think, just make it, pulpy. The more you cook it, the more pulpier it becomes, and then during that process, you are also losing a lot of vitamins because they are evaporated with the water. That's why we always encourage women, if they are cooking, let them put the lid on top of the pot, so that even if they are leaking, something must remain. The last surveys that we did, and this was on women and children, have shown that obesity, which is another public health problem, is on the increase. We are also saying that underweight among women is also a major problem because of what women, especially in the rural areas, are not eating the right amounts of food, and they do a lot of work, physical work, up to a point when you look at their energy intake and energy expenditure is not balanced, and when it is not balanced, it can go into the negative side of things, and that is why most of them are underweight. But don't be surprised that if in obesity, women, are carrying a weight more than what is the desirable weight for their age and height is also taking place across the country.
dogal kër ga ma la doon jaayloo kër ga jar na
xam ne démb rek barki démb rek am na ku ma kool di ma laaj ndax jar na am de
waaw yow wutal ma client wutal la client xam naa client jaay naa ko kay wax dëgg yàlla sant yàlla la ma mbëri nag
waa jox ma suma wàll
junne ba ma xamee loon jël ko
balaa nga may junne nag
waaw
da ngay fay bor ba pare
man dama xameel kenn bor
amee loo kenn bor
mukk kan la amee bor
xamuloo kër googu ñuy wax jiyaare waaw
dama koy dégg
fi ñuy fayee taxi yeeg yooyu fi ñuy fayee naamu
dama koy dégg rek
mu ngoog dafa am nag ci biir taxi yi lu ñuy ooyee capital gains tax
muy capital gains tax
waaw kay capital gains tax boobu yow moom war nga koo fay fi mu nekk nii
man ma jaay kër ga xanaa ka ma ko jaayee koy fay kay
mu ngoog xam nga kan moo ko war a fay bu fekkee da nga am empty land boo xam ne yaa ko moomal sa bopp boo ko jaayee moo xam nu xaalis ba toll da nga cee war a génnee tax fay ko jaaree
dama ciy génne taxi
fay ko
muy bi maanaam li ma ko jaayee laay dank yëpp ñëw jox leen jaaree jël leen
déedéet doo ko defee noonu waaye dafa am pourcentage buñ ciy jël dafa des nag ci xaalis bi ni mu toll ñu génnee ci mun ngaa fay sax 5% wala 15%.
ma naa fay juróom
waaw
wala fukk ak juróom
waaw kay bu fekkee yow kenn la waaye bu fekkee compagnie moo ko jaay moo xam kër gi empty land la wala dafa am taax ci biir bu fekkee compagnie ko jaay mun naa fay 10% wala sax 25%.
ma fay ji fukk wala fukk ak juróom
waaw bu fekkee compagnie
noonu la
loolu mooy capital gains tax te nag du laan rek ak yeneen yi mel ni moom yëpp te xam nga loolu fay ko li tax mu am solo dafay dimbale réew mi gis nga agriculture bi njàngum xale yi tali bi hospital bi yooyu yëpp dafa bokk ci loo xam ne government bi daf koo war a def nga gis ci sa bopp yow
léegi bi maanaam fu mu ne nii may waxee yow fii laa defee bërit dootuma jaar kër ga de nii laay jaar dem jaar yi
yéen ñii di ma seetaan ak man mii di wax ak yéen daw leen gaaw ngeen fay seen capital gains tax ci makaani jaaree bu leen gën a jege ndax loolu mooy doole réew mi
Let me first go back, make a flashback to 1999. That's the first time I know the Medical Research Council at MRC used to do of local studies around the Keneba, Kanton, Kunda, Manluar area. That's in the Kiang area. They used to do a lot of studies, to signal that there are deficiencies in iron, in vitamin A, and some other micronutrients. But the first major survey that we did here in the Gambia was in 2000, when we actually found out that vitamin A deficiency was a major problem, iron deficiency, anemia was also a major problem, and then we look at the consumption of iodized salt, less than 1% of the people were consuming iodized salt, and then we saw the consequences, and then it was there that we began to come up with programs like the vitamin A supplementation. Yes, iron supplementation was ongoing, But on top of that, we were also encouraging the communities to have gardens in which they will grow mineral-rich or vitamin-rich foods, like these carrots, greens, and everything that they can eat to add to their district. So that was how the micronutrient program started way back in 2000, coming up to just recently when the EU came up with this project of the biofortification and food fortification. So what the EU project came for is to help the government of the Gambia to build on what they were doing in terms of vitamin A supplementation, in terms of iron supplementation, and in terms of what NANA and the agriculture and other people are doing, helping women to come with home gardens, not putting too much emphasis on cash or income generation, but also putting some emphasis on consumption. So basically, the micronutrient program has two folds. One is fortification, to make sure that these foods that are eaten generally accessible by a good number of the Gambian population, like rice, like oil, flour, are fortified with iron, and others are fortified with vitamin A. So it's only through that way that people, for example, bread, everybody eats bread in this country, right across, whether it is the Senfood, the Tapalapa, or the one from the King's Bakery, we all consume bread. We all consume pancakes, we all consume things that are made from flour. So if we are able to fortify our flour, you will see that a good number of the population will be able to consume enough of those things to avoid the problem of micronutrient deficiency. And the same thing goes to oil. If we are able to fortify the oil that is produced in this country or imported into this country with vitamin A, it will also reduce the amount of vitamin A deficiency coupled with the fruits that we are eating. Because right now, if you look across, maybe the mango season has just gone, but there are certain foods that you can get a little bit of vitamin A, like the yellow maize that is being consumed, like carrots, these are all sources of good vitamin A. So fortification, it was aspect of the micronutrient deficiency control program, and it's part of the interventions that we are currently working on. We are working with the Food Safety and Quality Authority. We are working with the Standards Bureau. We are working with the NAF, the National Alliance for Food Fortification, to make sure that, at the end of the day, we set the standards and make sure that some of these foods that are consumed and accessible by a good number of the population are fortified. That's one aspect. The other aspect is about the biofortification aspect. This is where, we are trying to introduce some varieties of foods, like the yellow color maize, like the sweet, the orange fresh sweet potato, like the iron-rich beans, cassava. We are trying to get the cultivars. The cultivars are already in the country. NARI has been doing a good work to see their adaptability, whether they can adapt to our environment. And now we are trying to do the dissemination across the farmers, so that farmers can grow it, but not only to grow it. That is where the promotion of SBCC also comes in. Not only to grow, but to grow and consume those foods, in the long run. Food Security Improvement Project. It was immediately after that project, which was a $3 million project that we came up with the Maternal and Child Health Resource Project. This was a project that came to address basically the health system, but you cannot talk about health without also talking about nutrition. The health system was definitely by then and still now. There are certain things that needed to be in place. They were not in place. I must tell you, it plays a major role as far as the health system is concerned. Then there were certain indicators, health and nutrition indicators, which were either deteriorating or stagnant. They were not moving. And these are key indicators. If you don't dent them, then nothing will work. Because indicators like child malnutrition, indicators like anemia, indicators like mothers not going to the antenatal clinic, things like mothers not delivering at the institutional clinic, were really things where we're very worried. And if in the absence of medicine at the level of the health facility was very worrying. The absence of mobility at the level of the health facility was very worrying, because if the RHD don't go out for monitoring, I wonder how the people at the regional, the level of the health facilities, at the level of the communities will perform. Coming to women empowerment, we working in the nutrition domain. We know that if we don't empower women, we are nowhere. That's why you can see at the beginning, all our work was focused on women. It was only later that we begin to change and look at the family from a holistic point of view. If you look at breastfeeding and the maternity leave by ILO, because the International Labour Organization, was telling people that, we need to go for this maternity leave. By then, the Women's Bureau were also coming up with their women empowerment program. And then we really advocated for the 3 months maternity leave. It was from our advocacy plus some other partners, like UNICEF and people who are interested in child, mothers and children, that we were able to have that embedded into the document to make sure that, women are given a period of 3 months maternity leave so that they can at least start breastfeeding and practicing exclusive breastfeeding. Later, we realized that the 3 months was too short. Because on our side, we were saying, breastfeed your child exclusively for 6 months. Now, if you are giving the woman only 3 months maternity leave, how is the woman going to complete the other 3 months? And, there are no crèches around in our workplaces, and mothers cannot come to the office with their children. So again, we started the negotiation, started with the talking to government and the Women's Bureau and all partners who were interested in breastfeeding so that they can extend it to 6 months, and hence the 6 months with leave, maternity leave with paid leave, was part of the Women's Act. But when you look at nutrition from a wider view, it's not just about food. You can have all the food that you have in your household. That's why I said the technical definition might deal with those active mechanical and biological activities that do take place. But when you look at nutrition from a holistic point of view, you are talking about the collection of series of things that need to be present in the house for one to get adequate nutritional status. And that's why we go on to talk about nutrition security. And you cannot get nutrition security without getting those additional things. First and foremost, you have to get food security within the house, because without food, safe even infants who are breastfeeding, and even the breast milk that they are taking is food. But you have to get the food. You have to get make sure that the environment in which the patients live is clean. You have to make sure that the psychology and the social aspect of the woman, because if the woman is not having a good psychological state of mind, if the environment is dirty, if the water is dirty, if care is not there, we tend to neglect care. If this collection of things are not present in the household, it is going to be very difficult for one to get your optimal nutritional status. This is why health is important, because if somebody is not healthy, the food that you are eating, you either become anorexic, you don't want to eat, or when you eat the food, the body does not digest it properly. And even if the body digests it properly, it's not absorbed properly. So the health status, that's why we work very closely with the Ministry of Health and anything that deals with health. And then again, the food must be available in the households. That's why we need to work with agriculture, either from horticulture or from the production of cereals. We have to work with all those people. So it's the combination of all these things that we are talking about that can improve one's nutritional status. It's not a single thing. That's why we find it very difficult sometimes to move indicators. In as much as you educate people, Access will spend 50 years talking to people, they got the knowledge. but do they get the enabling environment for them to change their nutritional status? And what is the enabling environment? It's the availability of the food, it's the availability of child care, it's the availability of health, it's the availability of water and sanitation, and also the supportive environment of the people with whom the woman and the children live also matters a lot. The whole concept was about NAFA. How do we transfer cash to this community? So, but due to the fact that COVID-19 came, you cannot work on your social registry as quickly as possible. You cannot identify those 15,600 plus households that were supposed to be extreme poor, because you have to construct your social registry before you can get to that, do your proximine test to get down to that level of targeting. So now we say that since there was government lockdown, since government has already also started giving out in-kind support like rice, oil, and sugar to these communities, why not we change the financing agreement, restructure it, whereby part of that 31 million that was supposed to go, you take 10 million and then try to see how best you can do some cash transfer, quick one. That's why NAFA quick term intervene. And then instead of targeting 20 districts, you target 30 districts. And then for all those districts, anybody who lives a genuine household head will get $1,500. But the transactional cost of doing the transfer for every month will be high, and people may not have the capacity to do it on a monthly basis. We collapse the 2 months to be 1 month, and you are paid 3,000. So actually we're working on the first round, which we will complete very soon. This is just an update, the total number of people who have registered, this is about 45,951 households as of today. So this is just talking about the Fonyis, LRR, Kiang, near LRR and CRR North and South. We haven't yet gone to Basse. Basse is having very large settlements. So we hope that, by the end of the exercise, we will hit something like 60 to 70,000 households, and I think that's a fair number.
Kota, ado.
Sorry.
Kota.
Sumon.
Ina mole.
ne korda wa ne profit sori nyente na la yele na mo jojang
Ya.
ala na mo profit nyin kemo kemi tan ni lulu nyanda wala jola jiare jang
Ila keno me mula keno ya wa fe na mo jo fana kun.
hako
Mbo mo la.
ade me mo la de
Ha.
yare de man reja
Musa ala keno la korda la wafi. Ala korda la wafi aka wala foyo ko anata wala jojang capital game tax to jang. Anata wala jojang. De kemi wo kemi sir la tang anin lulu. Ayanta wala jola.
ila profit
Momo niyalon ko ika korda la wafi. Walla korda lorin bandi ko ka wala wafi. Ite nyanta nyin capital game tax jola jiare le.
compagnie
Ni atala dum fanan ibe compagnie le kono compagnie ye siyasa do je walla ye mandin kol ka famu ye ko niyo be je le compagnie nyum kono so ite nyanta munekela se keme o keme si latang ala fanna do bi je bo re jola ala fanna do bi je keme o keme si du lamuwan ani lulu ibo le jola adi bo jola min dola wala mun capital game tax to jiare nyanta jola wala ko fe mana ne jata ken ya bundal ne karamol ni ku katol be ka bo namo ko aku jama ba ma ka bo namo ko
amanda wala bakari nanyen stilo le niti nyata ana mo ka kataji yele
Mbaju le ko mbaju nyande malam bang fo mun to.
Gambia
Kani
da
mi
wo
ni
da
ko ndu bi ajolo mun to.
diare la office be da wo da ni te futata je
E
e
ba
ko nata capital e game tax le jo damo nata wala jo ibajo la
nyalo bidi abaraka maraw
Yalo.
inda de
Yo
ko
mo ko nyaw ko mal.
yo bismillah okay abaraka
Mi na sala ko mbaju le.
yo bismillah
Bara.
yo musa bito badi molu al signal lonko banku di wo banku di ni atare ikata banku di tuwe manke banku di tuwo adi ka kenolo wafi wale ka kordala wafi ni ya wafi mun kuma ta je wala ta diare la capital game taxi to yeta yete la namojo
Let me just hasten to add that, you know, the BFCI is not only about talking about breastfeeding. We talk about environmental sanitation. We talk about home guardians. We talk even about the use of bed nets. We talk to women to take their children to the health facilities for vaccinations, because even if you are giving the child some foods and the child is not immunized against certain infection, it's not going to be good. So coming back to the question of nutrition education, its impact on the communities is a slow process, but a slow process. And the more aggressive, the more intensified it becomes, the more you are able to change people's behavior. We have seen that from all the projects that we have implementing, from the present project down to the MCHRP, even this one that we are doing, the cash transfer, we always embed nutrition education for social and behavior change communication, so that people now will begin to change their behaviors. And now even the people who are doing the practice have also changed their mode of approach. Because formally, what they will do, they will go and talk to the woman. You start talking about nutrition, the men will tell you, oh, this is a woman's affair. But now we have changed that approach. The community engagement mode have changed. Now it's about talking about the societal level, talking with the alcalo, the imam, the husband, the wife, the peers, so that you don't address it from a single blood point, but you address it from a societal level, and definitely it has a lot of impact. I can tell you one thing. Today, when it comes to the practice of exclusive breastfeeding, you have more of it being practiced in the rural areas than in the urban areas. Why? Because you have all the BFCI communities in the rural areas compared to the urban area. Because the behavior of people now in the rural areas have actually changed in terms of refuse collection, in terms of how they segregate their refuse, in terms of where they store them, and using fencing materials to make sure that the refuse doesn't scatter. So it's not only about the dietary aspect that they know about all these micronutrients, they know their sources, but they are also applying what some of the things, in terms of knowledge, in terms of attitude, and in terms of behavior. And then people, to change their habits, something that they are very used to. And overnight you want to change it, it may take problem. But this is where patience, you apply patience, you have to say that, okay, not in my lifetime, but maybe at a particular time some of these things will change. Because if anybody has ever told me, as a young guy getting into nutrition, that the average Gambian today will start talking about nutrition, talking about vitamins, we're talking about minerals, I would have told you no. If by then their concept was nutrition is all about the kitchen, but today I think that concept is changing, and hopefully with the gains that we make, I think the major challenge is how do we sustain those gains, and we can only sustain it by making sure that we have the resources to continue doing what we are doing and do it more aggressively and more frequently. Not only as an outcome of socio-economic development, but as an input of socio-economic development. Countries that really understand what nutrition is are investing heavily on nutrition. But we have to mobilize internal resources. Governments have to invest in nutrition. That's the only way that sustainability can come. A predictable financing and budget for nutrition and its complementarities. But I think we still need to do a lot of education. We need to do a lot of advocacy with the people who have the final decision as far as nutrition is concerned. That blueprint is just a blueprint, but that blueprint needs to be costed in terms of dollars and dollars. And there is need for investment into that blueprint for those things to move. If not, it's just a mere document that is sitting up there. But coming to the side of nutrition, minus what the donors are giving as nutrition, the nutrition landscape would have been a different thing. In the negative, that the type of investment that you are yearning for is not coming forward. And this is really something that maybe people don't really understand the critical role of nutrition. It's not only about putting these things in our policy documents, but making sure that, in tandem, the financing also comes. All these things that we do, they're supporting us. They are really supporting. But supporting is one thing. We have to go to the next level of not rhetorics, but action.
To get correct and accurate information as far as the vaccine is concerned or COVID-19 is concerned, is you have to make sure that you get it from the people who are responsible in the response. That is from WHO, who are leading the global response efforts, and through their websites. That means they are accurate websites for that matter, if you need sources, or when it is locally, you have to also get the information from your Minister of Health, which in the case of the Gambia, our own Minister of Health, and through that, when it comes to information, that is through the Directorate of Health Promotion and Education, and when it comes to the field workers, that is through the communication, health communication unit, the unit that I belong to and I work for. These are the people who are actually, leading as far as sharing information with regards to COVID-19 is concerned. And the vaccine, you can also get it from the expanded program on immunization. That is the Ministry of Health office that is responsible for all vaccines in this country. And since 1979, they have been vaccinating people in the country. So if you need any information with regards to the COVID-19 vaccine also, you can reach out to the EPI, that is the expanded program on immunization in the Gambia, which are also housed in this medical and health complex here in Kotu, Central Medical Stores. These are the people who you can get accurate and correct and timely information from. And we also have a website, that is the Ministry of Health, the Gambia, and we also have a Facebook page, that is the Ministry of Health, the Gambia. We have Twitter, we even have YouTube and other platforms, WhatsApp platforms that we are using to make sure that information is accessible by the people, especially in this period of the COVID-19 pandemic.
My name is Mr. Joseph Sonko, a Banjulian and one of the agents at the polling stations for the forthcoming elections. We are urging people to come out in their numbers to register and get their voters' cards, as this is one of their constitutional rights. We're also asking them to come on time, because in most cases people come up late until the last hour, and normally they don't even have voters card, and those are the very ones who go out there and cause a lot of noises. So we are asking people to come early, get your voters cards, make sure you go and vote, as it's the only way to show that you're a Gambian and you're a citizen and you're responsible. In this vein, we thank you very much and ask you, do not forget, come up, get your voters cards, register and become a good citizen. Thank you.
My name is Ali Useka. I'm the CEO of the Gambia Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Well, the last 2 days have been quite informative if you look at the agenda. We've had, to start with, an inspirational talk delivered by Doyen Mr. Abdoulaye Touré, who's had a cross-cutting experience both from the public sector as well as the private sector, as well as academia, who had shared some life experience as well as what best to celebrate in the Gambia. But also throughout the last 2 days, we've had several speakers and resource persons to speak about digitization, which, as you would know, today is what drives the world, especially following COVID, post-COVID-19 or during COVID-19, when people have had to stay indoors and been locked away and resources not available and people not being able to gather together. So that's the future, which also incidentally has provided the largest opportunity for startups. And in the Gambia, amongst the rest of the world, we have many more businesses now in the digital era. Likewise, ICT overall, and how we can use applications, the World Wide Web, etc. Technology is what drives both employment as well as the future, and can create jobs for both the old and young. However, agriculture is one area that also recently have been, sidestepped, which we believe needs to be brought back to prominence. So there have been sessions and there will be additional groupings that will be meeting to discuss this. I should just mention the statistics that about 70% of the Gambians are employed in back-breaking agriculture. But we only provide about 20% towards GDP. So we need to transform this so that this 70% employment that is generated is actually translated to a higher contribution to our GDP. So really, these issues and topics that we've talked about are ways to first inform these young and budding entrepreneurs, but also to give them examples of how it has been done elsewhere, but also then to make sure that from here on, they use the resources and network and pull their resources together. So I'm pleased to note that they've received this enthusiastically, and we hope they will apply that. As part of the commitment we've made with our partner, CAS, is that we will have a monitoring and evaluation exercise to follow up to see how many of these 80 potential entrepreneurs, or in fact existing entrepreneurs, can migrate to a higher level. But also we will, together with a new project that we will launch in the next few weeks, organize a pitching competition so that we can provide potential funding and finance for the most potential businesses from here today. So overall, we will continue to do this. That's what we've done for as many years. We will do this continuing as well. Well, this is the second startup forum that we're organizing, and I can assure you it's not going to be the last one. To the contrary, the reality is that the overwhelming population in the Gambia is youth, and they're the ones that need to be transformed into entrepreneurs, because the reality is also there are not sufficient jobs for everyone. So we will continue this. We will have another 100 or so in the next few months that we will also prepare accordingly. So rest assured that we will continue on the transformation.
Every day bu ferry bi cross wàcc costé rek ay camion ayaluma ko nag waaye dañ ko war a réguler da nga xam ne tamit ñun mi nga xam ne ci loolu la ñu dunda ñun waa fii tamit ñu am some kind of protection xam nga because du question ni sax man ma mën a produce dem jaay ko Sénégal de because duñ ko allow man suma pañe tamaate du romba 40. man maay Moussa Mbenga man waa Banjul la ñu ngi dem Winley primary school fana after Sir Dawda primary school la tudda léegi fana beneen tur la then after ñu dem Gambia high school bi ñu jeexalee Gambia high school ñu am liggéey agriculture ñu post ñu Kuntawur so nekk nañ Kuntawur jógee ko fa ñëw fii nekk nañ Brikama nekk Yundum bala ñoo dem jàngi so biñ ñu ngi dem America la njëkk a dem pour suma first degree Bachelor of Science degree dëkk bu ñoo wax Lubbock Texas university bu ñoo wax Texas Tech University ba ma jeexalee foofu ma ñibbi si Gambia ñu post ma Sapo ma nekk Sapo from 1984 85 ma delluwaat America pour def suma Master of Science degree maa ngi ko defee dëkk bu ñoo Ithaca New York university bi Cornell University so ma nekk naa fa 3 years 3 and a half ma ñibbi si in 1989 bi ma ñëwee 89 ma delluwaat nekk Sapo time bu maa ngi liggéeyal research department bi léegi mooy naari fi ñoo wax naari fa laa nekkoon so nekk naa Sapo total 10 years ba 1994 bi Yaya di jël dëkk bi so mu ooma pour ma nekk ministre so def naa loolu nekk naa ministre ñeenti at ak genn wàll daal ba 1999 so bi ma bàyyee foofu may liggéeyal ñu ñoo wax CRS Catholic Relief Services ci liggéey Sesame bi so mbootaay bi ñoo wax NAWFA National Women Farmers Association man may woon lead consultant bi ñun ñoo ko taxawal léegi ma def loolu at ak genn wàll den ma am liggéey bitim réew mbootaay bu ñoo wax SILS moom mbootaay boobu mu ngi Burkina Faso Ouagadougou so foofu nekk naa fa juróom benni at ak genn wàll ba ma jeexalee foofu ma am liggéey FAO ñoom ñu jël ma yóbbu ma Congo Kinshasa so comme country director so fa laa nekk at ak genn wàll again den ñu toxal ma Accra Ghana fi nga xam ne fa la lifin bi nekk mbootaay FAO ci Afrique foofu la siis bi nekk fa la ñu so léegi ma nekk foofu country director pour Ghana di coordinate programme West Africa bi ak tamit di dimbale regional representative bi man maay woon adjoint maay toppoon ci moom tamit di ko jàppale ci liggéey Africa yëpp FAO so nekk naa ci loolu ba 2012 atam 2012 ba mu jeexee ma bàyyi ma ñibbisi bi ma ñibbisee nag in 2013 fekk fii amoon naa ko in 1999 maak sama benn xarit ndem si yàlla mu génn àdduna bu yaagut nii ñu ngi ko wax Modou Diallo Garanke te nekkoon patron fele boos bi nawek maa moom ñoo bokk fii léegi ñu nekk fii ba léegi alhamdulillah ñu ngi sant borom bi fu nekk 7 hectares yëpp développe nañ ko ñu ngi ko use waaye nag demee wutoon noonu in 2013 dañ commencé woon rek ci benn côté fii mooy benn hectare bi fii after ñaari at ñu dem yokk yeneen ñaar loolu weesoo ñu toog lu yàgga ñaari at xëy na door a def fii ay sorans côté bi sorans den li des ci tool bi daaw lañ ko développe foofu ñu ngi fa dugal sorans waaye tamit ñu ngi fa liggéey chili peppers ak kanja après ñu ngi taxawal néegi xar tamit dañ bugg a commencé di yar xar pour Tabaski mbéy mi li ko géteen bari na waaye comme lu nekk rek jafe-jafe bu nekk rek am na saafara boo jëlee affaire yi ndox mi taw bi nit mun naa def irrigation nga xam ne di nga mun a liggéey nawet liggéey noor su dee am nga ndox di nga mun a liggéey nawet liggéey noor bi sax moo gën a gudda so di nga mun a liggéey ñaari yoon ci noor bi loo doon liggéey mun nga koo def ñaari yoon ci noor bi soo dee am nga ndox waaw bu dee yaa ngi ci kaw gi jëlee ko CRR URR foofu xam nga am na géej gi yàlla may nañu géej gi ndox mu neex la nit mun nay pomper ci ndox ci géej gi di irrigate bu dee ci kaw gi la o fii Kombo nit mun na invest ci teen mite borehole di irrigate loolu boo ko munee nag soo ko defee xam nga yow yëfi problème yi ndox wàcc na la yaa ngi gis so léegi yeneen problème nga am yeneen problème yi mooy liggéeykat is a problème ñu jàng affaire agriculture ñu nangul liggéey agriculture bariwuñ ñetteel bi mooy marché bi foog nga understand ko ci li nga liggéey ci li nga yëngu foog nga xam fan nga ko yóbbu kan mooy jënd ñaata la si soxla ak yooyu noonu so di nga gis ne am na ñoo xam ne soo ko jëlee yóbbu ko dinañ ko jël am na ñoo xam ne dañoo emale dañoo jël am na marché boo fa demee li nga yore yëpp moom mun nañ koy jël di ko jaay bés buñ paree ñu wala yi nga jël sa xaalis waaye am nga tipa garage o traffic light ak yeneen place ci nga xam ne borom nombo tànk yi dañuy romb dañuy taxaw def seen dugga so ñooñu tamit boo demee duñ jël yëpp waaye dañu am du ñuy jël den nag am nga hôtel yi ak restaurant yi ak supermarket yi so su dee tourist season bi taxaw na diggante octobre ba april su dee am nga product yu baax nga dugalante gars yi hôtel bi tamit c'est big market waaw ak traffic light suñ liggéey suñ mbéy mi dafa seasonal dafa toppa jamono torop noor nawet ok bu nawet bi jeexee septembre octobre ñii liggéey naa ko yëpp ci la ñoo jóg clair seen naa ko yi stade di liggéey di def seen kuy fa di transplant ñun ñëpp di nga gis ne bu loolu ñoree ñëpp ay ñorandoor te ñun ñëpp benn marché bi la ñoo yóbbu tamaate bi su ko defee ñay jaay sa marché ba sax yenn da ngaa gis ñu toog tiim ay pañe xamuñ luñ koy def soo yow boo ñëwee sa tamaate sax mun nañ wax ne ma ne ñun soxlañ tamaate moo tax nag time boobu ay January February March nga gis price bi dem down yenn less than $10 sax ci kilo pañe tamaate 150 pañe bi whilst the other hand su dee léegi yow mun nga fexe nga liggéey tamaate léegi soo ko dugalee léegi mu ngee ñor si biir nawet bi time boobu tamaate du bari di nga am good price tamit bu dee mun nga ko dugal fa tamaate bi dem bi naako yi di liggéey bi jigéen ñi naako yi di liggéey fa seen bos bi di jeexee ci marché bi yow nga commencé foofu by this time price bi dafa égaat because du am su li ñoo wax supply and demand su supply bi demee less rek demand bi dem up price dafa éeg so looloo dee xew pexe bi nag mooy always li ma rek risque bu nekk am na saafara moo tax lu mel ni greenhouse dafa baax ndig moom nawet ndoxi taw mi du laal li nga béyteef bi du ko laal ndoxi taw bi du ko laal waaye soo mënee irrigate ndox ngay mën a dugal ndox yow doo am benn problème an loolu tax ñu dugga ci pour nawet bi ñuy def ay tamaate ay kaani salade ak salade ci boppam pour seet ndax ci biir nawet bi dina mun a baax te dinañ ko mun a jaay am ci good price fekk amul ci marché bi ñun rek ñoo ko am loolu moo gën a motiver investment bi in the greenhouses soo demee marché di liggéey si naako nga yóbbu benn pañe at the end of the day nga am $1,000 si benn pañe understand nga gis factory ñëw understand nga xam ne mun naa jël téeméeri pañe même su laa fay juróom téeméer sax si téeméer boobu noonu soo amee téeméeri pañe you are talking about almost $50,000, right? So, loolu lañ need. In the final analysis, we need industry bu mën a absorb production bi. That will tax ñiy liggéey dinañ mën a jaay, dina encourage more people. Because dafa nekk a livelihood. Soo liggéeyee $50,000 tamaate. Understand? Sa morom ki toog di idle. Understand? Dina am inspiration. Soo xamee ne noonu nga amee sa $50,000 bi dina la jéem a toppasi ci loolu so loolu nag su koy defee production bi gën a bari dina factory bi gën a viable gën a mu liggéey loolu noonu lañ ko war a xalaatee rek otherwise su ñoo demee ni ñoo demee nii duñ dem fenn dañoo mel ni yaa ngi daw indi taxaw benn place